Hey guys, welcome back to another episode in the deep playthrough of Metro Exodus. We are reading the journal in the train, just going through it from A to Z, just to get a full grip on the backstory before diving into further action. Here we go, with the character Damir. Damir is probably the calmest of all the crew members. Damir is also extremely reliable. He'll always be there to help. He always does the hardest part of any job, goes on the toughest missions. And then, instead of taking the well-earned respect and gratitude as one would expect, he starts blushing and saying it had nothing to do with success. And it all just kind of happened that way. There's only one painful issue for Damir, and that's his name. Name given to him by his father, along with half of his blood. Damir can't forgive his father for leaving, going as far as to deny being his blood kin. Alright. Duke of Darkness. Igor Zhukov the youngest, the bravest and the craziest of us. Some joined the order out of desperations, others to protect people from dangers, but Duke is just desperately in love with adventure. Whenever the colonel asks for volunteers, Duke is always first to shout, "Me!" No matter how hard and dangerous the mission ahead may be. A shame we don't have any medals in the order, otherwise Duke would be plastered with them. He keeps looking up to the more experienced fighters, competing with them for the most kills, missions and wounds. For some reason he pays particular attention to comparing his achievements with mine. I'm closest to his age. Anna once said about him, "Quit your whining, Artyom. There are people here who dream of becoming like you." About Duke. Was he right? Igor likes being called the Duke of Darkness, but you can hardly find a lighter-hearted guy. He is but a brat, taking crazy risks all the time. But Lady Luck smiles to the brave. If not for the trick he played on Silentius, that old obscurant, our whole operation could have failed. Duke, my friend, your star is undoubtedly on the rise, and soon you will outshine us all. We be of one blood, ye and I, and I'm proud of it. Alright, that was Duke. Yermak, the Aurora's permanent helmsman. Yermak knows every detail down to the smallest bolt and feels every change in the work of any of her numerous and, truth be told, quite worn out mechanisms with his heart. Yermak fit into our group so easily and naturally it seems he was with us since forever. And yet Anna and I met him on a Hansaic base where Yermak first helped me find my wife and then led us in the hijacking of our beloved cruiser. Still, with Yermak's background, it's a small wonder he decided to leave Moscow with us. At the time of our meeting, we had only just learned of Hansa executing everyone trying to enter or leave Moscow, but Yermak has been living with this terrible knowledge for months. First out of fear for his daughter's life, then after she succumbed to her illness out of sheer hopelessness. But now he's free, just like the rest of us, and if we ever come back to Moscow, we'll settle our scores with Hansaic leadership together. Yermak says that every man has a destination in life, a place where the fate leads him to. And whenever life becomes hard, sometimes unbearably so, I always recall his words. This might be the end of the line, but it's still not our destination. Get up, walk on. Thank you, Yermak. Idiots. Idiots chose his nickname out of natural humility, or perhaps simply in honor of one of Dostoevsky's characters. In fact, he's anything but, being the most educated and well-read soldier in the order. Landing the position of Miller's right-hand man back in the metro, the question is, what does he really know about the reasons for people being held in the tunnels? The war that could be still going on, as well as who is really in control of the metro. Idiot likes talking a lot, but he never actually says much if you push him. Save for his usual, on one hand, this could be true, while on the other, blah blah blah. If you feel that the truth is close enough to touch, talk to idiots. He'll confuse you completely in no time. One thing about him that I don't understand at all is what could he even be looking for fighting in the Order's ranks. Alyosha. Alyosha, the life of every party. An avid lady killer, favorite customer of the seediest joints of Svetnoy Boulevard, and our survival on the surface instructor. After only a cursory glance, he can correctly tell if an abandoned building can last for years or is ready to collapse onto your head at the slightest touch, which ability saved him back in Moscow more than once. Alyosha is the only member of our crew seemingly taking our journey for an exciting adventure. Probably in anticipation of new meetings with representatives of the fair sex, of course. I thought the other dude, Duke, was also seeing everything as an adventure, but apparently Alyosha is the only one. Sam. Sam is one of the Order's best. He might not be the strongest, fastest, or the best marksman we have, but he can certainly hold his own in a match with Spartan champions in each of these areas. And he definitely is the most unusual of us. Sam is an American, a Marine from the US Embassy's guard detail who just happened to be in the metro when the Judgment Day came and eventually ending up as Colonel Miller's personal bodyguard. Sam had to sit the battle for D6 out on the account of staying in a hospital with a serious wound and was really hard on himself for not being there to protect the Colonel when he was needed the most. As soon as he was back on his feet, still all bandaged, Sam would refuse to leave the Colonel's side no matter what. He wouldn't even let anybody else push Miller's wheelchair. Even when Andrew the blacksmith made the amazing prosthetics the Colonel has been wearing ever since, that should be, Sam remained Miller's shadow and, of course, joined us aboard the Aurora. I really wonder whether all the typos in these notes are intentional or just sloppy writing. All of us, the crew members, are going somewhere to some kind of destination, as Yermak puts it, where the destination, even though none of us know where the destination would be. Sam, though, seems to know the place. If the world outside of Metro is not wiped out, there must be survivors in the US, and Sam can't stop thinking about his parents who might still be alive, waiting for their son. I wonder if he feels he's traveling in the right direction with us. While we were waiting for the Aurora's repairs to be completed, thinking on how to cross the river, Sam, in light of our constant mentions of occupying forces, hypnotized himself into believing that the Colonel didn't trust him. It must be heartbreaking to have served a commander for 20 years with unquestioning loyalty only to be considered a traitor. What does this say? While we were waiting for the repairs, thinking on how to cross the river, Sam, in light of our constant mention of occupying forces, hypnotized himself into believing that the Colonel didn't trust him. It must be heartbreaking to have served a commander for 20 years with unquestioning loyalty, only to be considered a traitor, but it must be equally heartbreaking to have become so close to your old enemy, only to learn that your country might still be there after all. Didn't they already knew of those so-called enemies like all the time in the metro? Not only since recently? Really weird. Why would they have stayed in the metro otherwise? Because they suspected the US was still alive and kicking, right? I don't understand. And if the war still is... Yeah, maybe it was only revealed recently and they stayed inside because of radiation or something. It's not quite clear. And if the war still is going on, whose side are you on, Sam? Who are you? Stepan. In day-to-day life, Stepan is so calm and nice, it's hard to believe he's a member of the Order. We are a military organization after all. Once you see this giant in battle, though, you immediately see the reason for him being here. Stepan is completely fearless and amazingly strong. He handles a heavy machine gun as if it were a regular assault rifle. We're lucky to be on Stepan's side. Having him as an enemy would be a disaster. Right until meeting Katja, Stepan has never defied the colonel, but when Miller didn't want to let the woman and her daughter board the Aurora, he started a real quarrel. The colonel was noticeably thrown off, while the rest of us immediately understood what was going on. Still, as any good commander, Miller quickly saw through Stepan and let himself being talked into letting Katja and Nastya aboard. With this addition, Stepan was sure to never leave the crew. Alright, I also don't really understand this part. He started a real quarrel. The colonel was noticeably thrown off, while the rest of us immediately understood what was going on. What do you mean what was going on? It was obvious. They just tried to save a woman and a child. There was nothing secret going on. Still, as any good commander, Miller quickly saw through Stepan. Like he saw through a scheme or something. I don't know why you would formulate it like this. Instead of simply saying he immediately understood what Stepan means by it being ruthless to let a woman and her child die. He agreed to get the carriage and take them along. That would be a normal description of events. Instead of writing, as any good commander, Miller quickly saw through Stepan and let him being talked into letting Katja and Nastya aboard. It's a bit weird writing, I must say. Tokarev. Tokarev, partial to the creations of the famous gun designer he shares the family name with. Partial to the creations of the is a man in love with his craft. He is constantly busy with partial to the creations of the famous gun designer he shares the family name with. Right, no idea what that exactly says. Is a man in love with his craft. So his family name is Tokarev. And that's also the name of a gun designer. And he is partial to the creation of that designer, I guess. He is constantly busy with the crew's weapons, repairing, maintaining them, and making improvements. Tokarev knows everything there is to know about weapons, and even more, and can talk about them for hours, but is not really interested in much else. Still, he doesn't just care for our firepower, but also works on our gear, constantly adjusting and inventing new things, laboring day and night to make sure we all perform to the best of our ability, without being hindered by inferior equipment. What would we do without him? On a side note, he seems to be quietly and hopelessly unrequitedly in love with my Anna. He's always worried about her, thinking of her, talking about her, but I can't even bring myself to feel jealous. Katja and Nastya. I can't really imagine what Katja and Nastya had been through and how they managed to keep their sanity, much less remain as optimistic as they are. A little girl and a tender woman proved to be tougher than fate, taking all the blows it could throw at them squarely, and those blows were many and mighty. They had arrived at Volga with a group of migrants who were out on a quest for a better life. That quest ended with them finding a new faith, and their death along with it, of course. Silantius didn't kill anyone himself. He didn't even order anyone killed. Still, his holy ritual where an initiate must dispose of an electric anomaly to be accepted into the fold. How is this different from a murder in cold blood? It's no wonder that the colonel let Stepan and Anna coax him into letting Katya and Nastya aboard the Aurora, even though there must be numerous dangers waiting for us. Still, I would argue that these ladies are tougher than some battle-hardened troopers. Besides, Katya is a trained nurse and we will most probably need all the medical expertise we can get. I don't really understand the middle paragraph. They had arrived at Volga with a group of migrants who were out on a quest for a better life. That quest ended with them finding a new faith and their death along with it. Okay, so all the migrants found their death. So of course Silentius didn't kill anyone, he just said to each initiate dispose of an electric anomaly which got them killed. But why would you do that? Then you will have 0 new initiates. Why didn't Katya and Nastya also were ordered to dispose of an electric anomaly? I don't really understand. Maybe because there were like a woman and a child? Alright, Crest. An avid storyteller, a talented mechanic and a natural-born adventurer who traveled all across the vast expanses of this threatening worlds of the surface. So alien to us. Who'd been through hundreds of scuffles and struck thousands of deals, quite a few of which could well be of the less scrupulous sort. I don't know if Crest will be journeying with us for long, but I am not surprised he had such an easy time fitting in. Right from the start he gave us the hand with fixing the Aurora, gave us the rail car he's been using in his adventures, and then went with us on a mission to capture the tugboat, giving Duke and me the cover we needed to infiltrate the bridge. It's no wonder that even our usually cautious typo again, Colonel had no second thoughts about welcoming Quest into the crew. Alright, that were the crew members. The new worlds. Let's check the time. God damn it, it's a lot. 12 minutes to go. Bandits with no states and its laws, with no pockets of civilization which the new civic society could crystallize around. With no hope of ever going back to normal life, should one be surprised with the race of anarchy and its consequences. Bandits constructing their rudimentary societies around the basest aspects of the human nature. Even in the tunnels of Moscow Metro, where every meter has been divided between the quasi-states attempting to uphold some semblance of order on their turf, the gangs flourish. What could one expect from the world of service, where there is simply nobody and nothing to stand up to them? On the banks of Volga there seem to be a great many of bandit gangs. They have somehow agreed on a division or spheres of influence and are more or less happily coexisting, robbing the few remaining or newly founded in the less polluted regions peaceful survivor settlements and selling their denizens as slaves on the markets of the south. Fanatics. The worship of a giant mutant catfish, intense hatred towards the technology and outsiders, coupled with intense suppression of all individuality and independent thought within the community. What else could one reasonably expect from a mix of primitive mysticism with a classic religion, seeped with good old founders' cult of personality? I must give the fanatics their dues, though. By banding together, they managed to survive in this wild world, setting a bridge and turning it into a veritable fortress. Settling a bridge and turning it into a veritable fortress, which we had no choice but to take seriously. Their best fighters, the lightning fighters, can fight back against the electric anomalies and even gangs of bandits, compensating for their lack in training by strong motivation rooted in their fanaticism. Exhibition, my home station, now a part of Vdink Commonwealth, together with Alexeyevskaya and Riskaya. Living there has been an uneven ride, but I still have fond memories of the time. even though Anna, my wife, would disagree. She positively hated it there, having traded the position of the Order's best sniper for everyday chores of a regular mushroom farmer. Hansa, the most powerful faction of the Metro, the Commonwealth of the stations of the Ring Line. The soldiers in Hansa's enjoy the best pay and equipment, and thus are highly motivated to train and perform their duties exceptionally well, making up in proficiency and skill for what they may lack in numbers. The only force to be objectively better than Hanseatic troops in terms of professionalism and training is the Spartan Order, which yours truly is honored to be a member of. As far as I was able to surmise from the Colonel's reluctant confession, Hansa is the vehicle of the Invisible Watchers, the real government of Moscow, controlling all the factions from the shadows. They clearly have too much power to just live and let live, and thus engaged in some shady business, including the SHIELD project, designed to keep Moscow under an impenetrable blanket of radio jamming to prevent further nuclear strikes against the capital. They clearly have too much power to just... Right. The project itself would be a benevolent initiative, even if connected with mass murder of people coming into or trying to leave Moscow, as well as anyone and everyone learning anything about it. The project itself would be a benevolent initiative, even if quite misguided, had it not been connected with mass murder of people coming into or trying to leave Moscow, as well as anyone and everyone learning anything about it. Anna and I were captured by their patrol after we saw the Aurora entering the city perimeter, and just for that terrible crime I was put to the gun. So Hansa knows about the surface people and control the metro while keeping its denizens unknowing of the surface, just so they could continue being the most powerful faction of the underground metro, while also knowing about the above ground non-toxicity and stuff. Why would they want to keep the stupid metro capsulized to the metro only? Why not simply let everybody also go outside and exercise their full control up there as well? I don't really understand their motive. Anna's agony at the moment is something I will not forgive them for as long as I live. Alright, that's Hansa. Then we have creatures. Alright, that's a bit shorter, but it are quite a lot of entries. Equipment, also a bit shorter, but quite a lot of entries. And weapons. Yeah, still quite a lot. I will be continuing, and probably also in the next episodes, because it is what it is. We need to get through it. It's a deep playthrough. Better do it all at once than continuously breaking up the action to start reading. Creatures. These watchmen, these annoying beasts hunt in packs, and if you see one, you'd better dispose of it immediately, otherwise it might howl and call in the rest of its pack, and it will howl as soon as it sees you. Demons, these giant flying mutants comfortably occupying the position of the apex predator in the food chain of the poisoned wasteland, stretching above the tunnels of Moscow Metro, have, thanks to their enormous physical strength, speed and aggressive demeanor, successfully settled a huge territory. That is hardly surprising, as there are very few animals capable of ever facing a demon. Those that could fight it one-on-one and win are even fewer and further between, while a demon can easily fly away from any of them. Luckily, because of these strengths, the demons, like the large birds of prey of the past, prefer to live and hunt alone or in very small groups, and thus do not present an immense threat to a careful traveler. I'm just reading this first paragraph one more time a bit. Those that could fight it one-on-one and win are even fewer. So you have, as there are very few animals capable of ever facing a demon, those that could fight it one-on-one and win are even fewer. Why are there so few enemies incapable of ever facing a demon? Everybody can face one, right? Just go outside where it flies and you will face one. I don't understand it. That you cannot win, that there are only a small fraction of animals able to defeat one, I can understand. But that there are only a few number of animals capable of ever facing one, I don't really understand. Humanimals. Like the other mutants created by radioactive fallout, these nightmarish creatures feel right at home in the inhospitable post-war world. Despite clearly being descendant from humans, these creatures are not really that smart. Resembling apes in their behavior, they live in packs, don't use any tools, and defend themselves mostly by throwing stones from a distance. One such mutant is not much of a threat, but a fight against a pack of these is hard to survive. Our first encounter with these creatures happened on the banks of Volga. In the open they seemed harmless and even pathetic, their ugly appearance accentuated by the sluggishness of their movements. Yet inside the abandoned loading terminal building they proved to be more than just troublesome to me. It became apparent that besides throwing stones, they were also capable of ambushing their prey by hiding in shallow water. Tsarfish, generally a giant mutant catfish terrorizing the fisherman world, seem to be a dubious object of worship at best. I would say it is seems, not seem. Unless catfish itself is plural. But Silentius still managed to indoctrinate the locals he'd brainwashed into believing the monster was sent to the earth with a divine mission. Shrimp female, a mysterious aquatic life form, seemingly crustacean, of course. Seemingly crustacean. Of course, you can't be sure these days. As far as I know, nobody ever thought of properly researching them and finding their proper place in classification. What we know is that they have strong carapaces, are aggressive predators and as such inherently dangerous. The females of the species tend to attack in packs, spitting corrosive mucus from the distance, or when they think they can easily finish their prey, going in for a kill with their disgusting leech-like mouths. Shrimp male, a mysterious aquatic life form, seemingly crustacean. Of course, you can't be sure these days. As far as I know, nobody ever thought of properly researching them and finding their proper place in classification. What we know is that they have extremely strong carapaces, are aggressive predators and as such inherently dangerous. The males of the species tend to live solitary lives and are extremely territorial. Once they see anything they deem a threat, they immediately attack, using their massive forelimbs as clubs and shields at once. This is almost the same text as this one, so I would have simply, in this male one, referred to the female text and only kept in the different note specific to the male one, because this is a bit weird. Or at least if you read it all at once, it's like a double read. Of course, if you just only use this lexicon to look up single entries, then it might be useful that it's the same text is duplicated in each entry, but I would not duplicate it like this. Anyways, hitting the 30-minute mark, we'll quickly do these two, and then in the next episode we will read the last two entries, and then we will have went through the whole diary or the notebook. So 1 minute. moment. Here we go. Dog. The common dogs seem to be no match for the messed up world of the surface, but they manage to survive despite being surrounded by mutants and human enemies. So they definitely are a threat to be considered, especially when you consider their keen senses and ability to easily alert their masters to your presence. Oh, that was the timer. Lurker. While lurkers are far from being the strongest or meanest mutants around, either in the metro or on the surface, they are still a danger to be considered, especially for a lonely wanderer. They are a colonial burrowing species. As such, what is a colonial species? I'm gonna check that out later. I'm curious. Colonial burrowing species. I only know colonialism in the context of human settlements, but not in the animal world, but apparently it's something. They are a colonial burrowing species. As such, they protect themselves from the larger predators by constructing lots of interconnected burrows in close proximity to each other and hiding in them if sufficiently threatened. That's actually cool of reading this. You really do notice this behavior in real in the game. They do flee into their burrows if you shoot at them. Just like the, I forgot their names, watchmen indeed call out for their comrades for reinforcements if you fight one. They simply howl for their companion watchmen to start attack you en masse. So it's pretty cool that, like, reading this really affirms the mechanics I noticed in the game. In the gameplay itself. Alright, while keeping the surroundings under constant observation in search for danger or potential prey. As such, they protect themselves from the larger predators by constructing lots of interconnected burrows in close proximity to each other, and hiding in them if sufficiently threatened, while keeping the surroundings under constant observation in search for danger or potential prey. When in a lurker-infested area, you can never guess which burrow a bloodthirsty creature might appear from, though you can bet it will most often be the one you're not looking at. Alright, that were the first 4 sections. I will read the last 2 in the next episode and then continue with the more action-packed gameplay pieces of the playthrough. Hope you enjoyed. If you hope you enjoyed reading or listening to reading. Otherwise, you would not have enjoyed this for sure. Hope to see you in the next one, which will probably also contain just action gameplay again. And hope you will keep on gaming. See you later.